Ladies and gentlemen, Pronago bringing you another Cosmonarchy match. It is the final match between any player in Gauntlet Stage A, the last chance to qualify. If you fail here, you gotta sign up for Stage B. And I am happy to report that both players have actually signed up for that, so neither one of them losing means that we will potentially miss out on them in the Battlement stage after all. Sosij in the top left is going to be opening up on Paradilla with, of course, a standard gateway. And we got Grass Eater in the bottom right. He is fresh off of losing to Jakulanski 3-1. Sosij, of course, upset Shock Horror by Kutyam Chupan. I actually predicted this match to be Kutyam versus Grass and thought, well, Kutyam's TVZ is actually not too bad. I know that he regularly takes games off of players like Jakulanski, for example, so odds are he should actually have a fighting chance in that matchup. Well, he didn't even need to play it. He ended up upsetting Sosij, going up 2-0 in the series, and then clinching the final game right before Sosij completed the reverse sweep. Bit of a heartbreaker for our Protoss, who is in the top left, as I'm not entirely sure what color this is. I love that it's a gate warden. Just worried about that 6 pool, I guess. But this does mean that he can't actually produce any units until he gets 75 minerals for the Legionnaire in this case. Yeah, I guess this color is like auburn? Wine. Well, that's a really close match to auburn, actually. So I'm a little bit more proud of myself than maybe I should be, considering I didn't actually get the color. Grass Eater in the bottom right. This is an aquamarine, but I actually don't know what other color it even could be. These are really hard color guesses to start things off in today's series. I'm thinking that this is probably the hardest part of this whole ordeal. By the way, there's a Hydroth opener here for Grass Eater. That's clearly he's interested in going for a Zero-Core spam, and he's just hoping that Sosij isn't doing anything particularly aggressive. I'm going to go ahead and say he is... Oh, man. I was going to maybe guess Emerald, but that's like way too light. It's not turquoise. It's not aquamarine. I don't know. I'm out of guesses. I'm out of ideas. It's not Celadon, but that's... Oh, shit, it was. There you go. I was going to say, I guess I'll say Celadon, and there it was. All right, I got one. I got one, lads. 8 I0-Core attack. This has happened before. Grass Eater has actually done this before. And I guess versus Legionnaires, this is a pretty optimal opening to play it into. The one base Ardent... By the way, one Warden will never kill enough I0-Cores. All the workers will die beforehand. So this actually is scaling up to be something pretty deadly. And Grass Eater even has a little bit of a follow-up afterwards. Obviously, he's got a decent number of Droleth as his 8 I0-Cores move across the map. Legionnaire coming across to scout. You'll note that both on Paradilla, map by BDB, we have the players, even though they're on like opposite sides of the map, obviously, they both take the right path when they auto-path to the enemy base. It's a curious quirk of the map, and I guess of StarCraft's general modding, or general pathfinding. I do like the Matrix here. I think that's going to do a lot better at shielding versus the I0-Cores, but this is still a pretty scary number of units. Hydras are coming. The Droleth can deal with the Legionnaire anyway. And yeah, I mean, all of that focus fire is going to net him 1 I0-Core, but look at the health on his Legionnaires. One of them falls immediately. He's going for an Ardent Authority unit. The first casualty of this Legionnaire is indeed a Droleth. The Hydra might actually be the next one. All of the micro being spent on dealing with these infantry units for the Protoss. A Dragon comes out much better in that respect. And you can see him splitting off individual workers, but yeah, actually the I0-Core count has dwindled quite a bit, and the worker count isn't really that heavily lost. It doesn't look like any Hydras ended up going down. A second one joined the fray to help kill that Legionnaire in the enemy base, so Zerg seems to be alright. Only has 4 of his 8 I0-Cores, a lot less scary versus the workers as a result. And you can see how much leverage the Matrix is putting in on this, as they all huddle around it. He's shutting down a little bit of mining time, but that is going to be all she wrote for the I0-Core attack. And, well, after all of that, a 6-worker lead for the Protoss. Tempo on the natural for Grass Eaters, Zerg. I guess you can start to switch into Hydra Tech from here, but already into Positrons is a pretty good move for the Protoss. If he just ends up going for a lot of those, I would not fault him for going Servitor, one more round of Servitor and then going for a Sedent here. But he's going to go Embassy instead, wants to maybe get some vision, maybe a drop. Positron drops have been very deadly against Zerg for some time. Typically, the reason why you don't see that happening at the highest level of play is because, well, really, the higher level Protoss players don't always do drops to begin with, but when they do, they're hitting with an Acantor, they're hitting it with Cantavis. But Sosij likes his drops with unorthodox units. He likes to do idols, he likes to do 3 Drakidins, he likes to obviously do the Positrons and the Acantors as well. So it's a bit unpredictable which ones he ends up going with. I look forward to seeing him get up to his drop antics in the series, and we actually saw Jack Yelansky use that to great effect to defeat Grass Eater 3-1 in the previous series. So Double Embassy tells me that maybe we're even going to try to build ourselves an Artisan flock, but I don't know. I actually haven't seen Sosij flex into Artisans for some time now, so I wonder what all he's planning on doing. An Envoy once he has the minerals, Iziricors leading the charge, Hydralisks backing him up with some damage. There's 2 Positrons here, so the Hydras will be all stacked up and dealt a raw hand of it as they start to falter and move further away. We will end up seeing those Zealots endure. A couple of Ecclesiasts for good measure, and it looks like only the Servitor ended up going down there, so kind of cute in that respect. First Envoy comes out. We got a pylon for expanding the build radius. And yeah, he can just go ahead and scoop those 2 Positrons in there. That will fill the Envoy. You can't, I mean, you can add like a couple Legionnaires or whatever, but you can't really do much else. Or a couple of Sims and things like that. And it is Artisans. After the second embassy starts, you typically always see Artisans, but we haven't seen that in some time. And so I am appreciative of that as an option. A couple of Drillets out of position here for Grass Eater. Doesn't have really hardly any static defense or advanced warning of this drop. Envoy could very well put Sosij in the lead in workers once again with minimal effort. We got 3 Hydras here to maybe get pulled away on the defense, and Hydras microing up at the front line. The drop comes in. Let's watch Grass Eater's positioning on his camera. It's going to take him a little bit of time to respond to this, and he does not have the luxury of time. He hasn't looked at it and is already like down multiple workers. I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, 11 workers have been killed. Well, some of those Positrons probably got kills earlier, but at the very least, 10 workers were killed. So you can tell by the deficit that suddenly he finds himself in. Idle workers are the defeats plaything. I don't know. That's not really the same thing as what you would expect. And he doesn't actually he's not following this drop in that way. Very, very brutal to lose so much. He has got a lot of money in the bank, so one of the Positrons goes up in smoke. That's going to make the next drop much easier to repost, but remember that we do have another one back at home. We got actually 2 of them back at home, and the Artisans are starting to saturate this natural. So yeah, right about now, the economy isn't actually too terrible for Grass Eater because he is going to get 6 more workers and get up to 20, but the Artisans are already starting to pay out their cost. Remember that Sosij, even though he's got more workers here, is not mining as much as Grass Eater will be very soon. Even with the Artisans. And the Artisans themselves cost resources. So as long as Grass Eater continues to scale his eco up, which he is doing, he is adding even more workers, then he's actually going to be in an okay spot here to scale back up. It's just that his army is not going to be too tremendous. He does have Hydra backed. A couple of workers moving around. Looks like he's actually just going to go ahead and take a 3rd base here. The cadence of the 3rd base isn't too terrible, but I do want to see him continue to make workers to saturate this stuff. I can see him going Skith here. That's not really going to be particularly useful versus the drops, so I hope he's planning on doing some kind of attack with them as opposed to trying to use them for defense. They really take ages to kill anything that, well, any Protoss unit, typically. Besides vassals, maybe. Still no defenses actually set up here, but his attack is pretty deadly. Positrons do start to struggle versus Bactylus counts, and really if the Zealots can't get right on top of them because of the Izirikar and Hydra counts, then we are going to see some pretty powerful wins here for the Zerg. He's engaging before the Bactylisks actually get here, but that might be perfect to just draw in all of the Zealots into one place. And now they're bouncing onto that back line. You really got to watch out for that. The drop is going to come into the main base with an Acantor in that Envoy, and that's not a bad, not too shabby idea. The ground units for Grass Eater are being broken. The Bactylisks being engaged, and the Acantor already has killed 4 workers and marooned a few others on the idle factor. Not working out for Grass Eater after all. His Bactylus count probably needed to be there to deal with those Positrons in particular. Instead, he just kind of attack moved them in and had them deal with those frontliners, which they're not really super adept at dealing with. GG! Sub 10 minutes, Sosij claims the first game, and it didn't really feel like he was in a lot of danger for any point of that. Even that 8i Zero-Core attack that we thought would have worked out a little bit better for Grass, Sosij had the answer to it. He just scouted it out, put down a matrix, and reposted the attack with some acceptable losses of his infantry units. besides the lost mining time, I actually don't think he incurred any economic losses that entire game. So obviously a pretty strong opener there, but maybe Grass Eater's got some tricks up his sleeve yet to come. Let's see what happens in game 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on to match 2, and this is a 4-spot map, Saberhand. It's a port of Blade Runner, originally by Minerals, ported by yours truly. Excited to see this map get some games in the pool. I actually think it's a pretty cool one. Sosij in the top left, once again, looks to be the wine Protoss, but Grass Eater is in the bottom left, and he is the green Zerg. So sharing the left side of the map. On a map like this, you really typically wouldn't be going for a 6 pool, but let's face it, Grass Eater is definitely going to run that build at some point in the series. It's just not going to be on a 4-spawn map. You don't want to play the odds like that necessarily. I still remember this legendary game. This is back when pools unlock Nathricors directly from the pool, from the word go, from the jump. And you actually, they did splash damage to ground and air units, and so you could kill workers with them really fast. And 3 Crow was playing against Mystery Meat. These are players who are not very active right now anymore. But 3 Crow is very active in our community server, and Mystery Meat checks out every now and then too. He ended up, 3 Crow played against Mystery Meat. He 6-pooled on a 4-spot map and just went cross-position, which is where his opponent was, with all of his starting Nathricors. It was kind of outrageous. He didn't win the game. Mystery Meat was just a stronger player. But I just find that kind of thing to be so ludicrous that, like, you really gambled. You really just said, screw it, I'm moving across the map with all my units. And it actually worked out. So it's not because he forgot it was a 4-spawn map. It's not like he thought it was 2-spawn. So just so you guys know, before you think about maybe that's what it was. No, we asked him. He just said, nah, I figured that's my gamble. Still wasn't quite enough to win, but that's all right. Zerg here. Nathricor is definitely in a neater spot now. So on this particular map, you're going to notice that there's a number of these like asphalt little embankments. And as you progress through them, they are height transitions. They're basically like the version of ramps that this map has. There are these neutral side disruptors that you'll note also as opportunities to defeat bigger armies, constrain their movements and such. Sosij confirming nothing on the top right. It feels like, Grass Eater picked this map, so interesting to note that, because he's not always known for macro games. In fact, we've seen him struggle in the macro department quite a bit. So to see him opt for this particular map, which I think can give pretty good macro games, it's just interesting. That's all. He's going to do the classic 3 pairs of Zeths, pinch 2 off to each base. And I think when he scouts the worker over on this side, passing into the side disruptors, he should actually take the Zeth and just attack it. And maybe straight up go for everybody else onto the other side. He actually... Oh, he put everybody in the middle. There's a couple of Ancestral Archives in here as well to block pathing and such. Just extra things that you can use to do some damage. And open things up for bigger armies later on in the game. Fairly quick hatch. No Den first this time, of course, but a pretty fast Vornath, and the Quads are going to be bodyguarding versus the Scribe. Actually, workers have enough HP in Cosmonarchy. This kind of move, you wanted the Quads to be a little bit further forward, but I don't think the Scribe actually got close enough, so I take that back. It was actually totally fine. A lot of Legionnaires scouted out by that initial Zeth, and he is going to go ahead and bank some of these guys off to the side. I'm not entirely sure why. I guess he's worried that maybe some units escaped or something and then are going to come around, but either way, we'll keep tabs on what's going on. The 2-gate into Warden. Double Arden on 1 base. No Sedent yet, but I'm sure that's coming for this build. I can only imagine what Sosij is planning here. Zeth not actually seeing the Legionnaire move out. There's 6 Quads over here. We got more coming. 1 pair of Naths to move across the map, maybe. I am reminded of one of the classic moves that Zeke did a little bit further away. Oh no. Oh no, the Legionnaires have bypassed it. Okay, the Quads are going back in. This is looking like it could be ugly. This is looking like it could be a little bit dire. Agreleth here to try to do a little bit of base defense, but a lot of units that are going to be struggling here. Legionnaires just right-clicking worker after worker. Down to 11 workers, make it 10. And the rest of them end up trying to burrow to avoid the pain. He's got 7 in production. He can catch back up, but obviously his own Zeths weren't able to do much of anything. Can't even confirm the tech yet. It is going to be Positrons. I'm sure we're going to see a 1-base embassy here. If Grass Eater just makes the executive decision to do nothing but build workers for the next, like, 2 larva rotations, he will actually have an economic advantage. Because Sosij is very committed in this position. And the Nats are going to come in and scout what's going on, so... They even say alive, both of them, which is nice. Oh, well, I tell a lie. They would have. Yeah, no, seeing that number of... Seeing the double Ardent, which I believe he saw both. The vision range of the Nath is not very impressive. That tells him a lot. He's still going to clump up here with all of his quads. There's a small chance that he could do something here. He has the Vorvs, and Sosij is obliging him a little bit for a moment with that move out, but at the very least, he can set up a containment. Grass Eater wants to pull the trigger on the go button. Oh, Sosij did the classic attack his own unit again, and it doesn't quite look like Grass Eater wants to pull the trigger on the engage just yet. He is starting to dive onto those positrons in the back line. Zealot count working out for Sosij for now to make these quads barely do much of anything. And it does look like he will be able to riposte in the end. He's got a couple of workers that he pulled off the line, too. It's pretty funny. Now maybe you can think about setting up an expansion. Yeah, that looked like it almost was deadly for Grass Eater, and I love this. 15 pairs of sats, first of all. Try to spend down your larva because you were floating them. But Macro Hatch with the Agrolith. I don't know why he canceled it. I prefer the version with the Macro Hatch, personally. But I guess he was worried about the counterattack. Fair enough. Almost the micro. Almost. He's got a lot of Zets. I mean, they kind of struggle versus the Positrons. But you can just right-click them into the base and then tear apart all these defenses. Let's see if that's what he actually wants to do. Or if he wants to go for a big surround. He's going to go for Vorvs in his face? I don't know about that. I mean, these units do make pretty quickly, but this feels like a missed opportunity to actually engage with all your Zets. Maybe he doesn't want to go for it. He actually cancels out a few of them just to get the engagement off. There was 13 Vorvs. I think he canceled 4, so he's still got 9. And he's going to go for it, but there's no actual damage here, and the Positrons are not being engaged. GG. Grass Eater struggling now at elimination point, needing to sign up for Gauntlet Stage B if this continues. And Sosij will make mincemeat out of him. Not what I thought would happen in that game. A bit of a misfire on the attack inside the base, where it did look pretty good because the Vorvs and the Quads really synergize well with each other. The Vorvs render the armor and ensnare the target. The Quads are able to very easily stick to them and deal more damage because of the armor end. That didn't end up happening there for the Zerg army. Then we think about that fight in, where he's morphing a bunch of Vorvs right in front of him. Well, that doesn't quite work. I think you need, versus that kind of composition, if you're going to go pool, you need to stress the counterattack move and then go for a lot of static defense. This is sort of like playing PVT, or sorry, ZVT in StarCraft 1. Have the mutas somewhere, threaten the counterattack, the Sunkens to defend the bio. This is the kind of classic, sort of RTS instinct that I feel like Grass needed to have there. So, well, he's not quite down and out yet, but it's not looking great for him. Let's see if he can turn his luck around game 3. It is Gilded Wall up next for us. Sosij the Wine Protoss in the bottom left. And Grass Eater the Teal Zerg in the bottom right, who is going to be 6-pooling. Well, if there's any way to turn your luck around, it's with the 6-pool. And it doesn't surprise me Grass Eater does this, because, he is notorious for 6-pooling. He's notorious for doing some kind of rush, some kind of way. And fair enough, it does work for him, even versus higher level players. This is his one win in the series against Jakulansky. It could be his one win here if he's going to be able to post it. Sosij going for that gateway in a very defensive posture, and he will be going for a scout. This is a 2-spot map, so obviously a much easier way to navigate the 6-pool mind game, if you will. In case you guys are curious, we do have a few informations for you regarding the remaining maps. If we go to extra maps, Macroglia will be up next, and Frozen Sylphid could be our decider. Not looking too likely yet, but okay, he cancels out the morph there, and he goes for the good timing on it. So it is going to be the same build that he used to defeat Jakulansky. 6-pool on this very map, by the way. Worth pointing out. So the Scribe's going to come in here, and the Quads are going to hatch pretty soon after that. So, he's not even paid attention yet to what he's found. Now he sees, and he's like, geez. That's a lot of Zerg. Kagrin going down for the Larvosk. Warden has already started before he even scouted. He knew what he needed. Single Zealot. Yeah, I think that's probably the right move. It's either that or a Drakon, and he doesn't have the spare resources right now to be harvesting Vespene. So, needs the Zealot. Probably needs a number of them. I do like the second Warden. I probably would have preferred him build the first one here and the second one here, just so that it buys a little bit more time. Well, let's see how much damage Grass Eater can really do. He's been starting to make workers now, finally. A pair of Zets joins the fray. There's a pretty, actually, this is already one pair of Zets. Wow. There's a very committed attack here from Grass Eater. It's not going to have the same... Oh, well, you didn't need that health anyway. It's not going to be the same potential for a follow-up. So he tears asunder that first Zealot, or at least gets pretty close to it. Now he's going to cancel out this first Warden, despite the second one taking care of business. Good cancellation there. And not looking like a very good start here for our Zerg. But he's going to see how much damage he can actually do. One of those Zealots is pretty low. When they lose their shields, they lose 1 point of armor, which makes it a little bit easier for Quaz to deal with them. But they still have 1 effective armor versus the Quaz, so it's not stellar. Yeah, not a great start here for Grass Eater. But is he really going to tap out right now? I mean, back at home, he has a bunch of workers. He has a little bit of time and tempo. He keeps one of the Quaz alive so he can watch for the move out if he wants to, or just return home with it. He's actually going to go ahead and... Okay, I thought he was going to expand here. I was going to say that's pretty ballsy. This might be one of the few times where it makes a tremendous amount of sense to mine out the back line and go for a more safe defensive expansion. The Quaz comes back in just to see that the Zealots are not quite moving out just yet. Zats, a Circuith, makes some sense. Pretty steep 8-worker deficit for our Zerg player and no end in sight, but one thing you can rely on here is that pool units are dirt cheap, so when you're building up this line of defense here, as we see, it's actually not too bad, because what we're seeing is an opportunity for Grass Eater to spend most of his money on workers, a little bit of his larva on pool units. Like, he's got his Maginot line here, and the Zealots are going to have a hard time actually getting to that Circuith. That's a tricky move, you know? It's a funny move, that's for sure. That actually makes Sosij turn around. I feel like you can fight that. It's just a little bit annoying. And nonetheless, this is something that Grass Eater is going to be thankful for. The one Zealot gets surrounded by the Zets. Maybe that's opportunity open for an expansion. Halfway done with the Nexus already. Grass Eater has nothing in production. Meanwhile, the Grand Library is complete, making a Cantavis. We got an embassy on the way. Occasional Zealot production as well coming out there for our Protoss. And here we go. The Naturals are in the pipe for both players. This is looking like a hard game to transition out of from the really brutal opening for Grass Eater that it has been. I suppose never say never. The Zets coming in to see if they can poke in. See anything of note. Bulwark and a Cantavis. And a whole lot of gateway units. Yeah, you want to turn around at that point. He did make more Zeth. Avalith coming. Is this an opportunity for a drop? As Vornath's almost done, and clearly is thinking about Vorvs. Got a lot of larvae banked up here again. Not a lot of Vespine, so it's definitely not like a Nath Flood or something, but I'm just wondering what his game plan actually is. 7 Droleth, I like that. Keep trying to spike up in terms of workers. Still down by 10 after the early game. It's going to be a storm drop almost assuredly. And the Zeths are not in a good spot to try to counter much of anything here on the drop side of it. His Avaleth will fly across at the very least. Maybe it'll give him some information. 1 pair of Nats. I love anti-drop choices. As an anti-drop choice, I love Nathrakors. For some time, before, say, the last month, or maybe a bit longer, Nathrakors had a problem where they couldn't actually auto-acquire targets with their air attack. And that's been resolved, you know, again, about a month ago, maybe. So, at this point, patrol them, attack move with them, whatever you do. Pretty good choice. And yeah, the Avaleth does scout that out. Grass Eater has noticed it, and he sends the Nats in for it. This is going to be pretty dire, because the Cantavis are going to need to be unloaded. Oh, no, his Nats actually missed it. I don't know how. I don't know how that's possible. All he needed to do is grab it and right-click. Or at the very least, go for the intercept course, but it's not going to be the case. Grass Eater now in a lot of trouble because the Cantavis are unlike... Well, Sosij does this sometimes where he actually idles with it. And look, the Nats have not found the target. He comes on in now. Yeah, this is going to be pretty messy. You can group storm, and they will actually stack up a little bit of extra damage. Oh, man. It's outrageous. I don't even see how many workers that was. He's at 28 now. Okay, well, only one Cantavis remains. Could cast another Storm. Wants to go after the workers, of course. Makes some sense, but... eventually he will die. I really would have loved the insolence of a Droleth killing him. Well, the Avaleth spots out what's going down over here. A whole lot of nothing. But maybe there's going to be another attempted drop at some point. Man, that could have been so much nicer for Grass Eater. Unitary Union on the way for the Protoss. I actually don't know what unit he's going to go for that. Maybe Vibrance. Witness moving forward. Yes, forward, not backwards. It's supposed to be in the direction of the portrait, guys. Come on. Just makes sense. Broadcasting it. They wouldn't show us this if it was its ass, okay? Blizzard is not... well, I guess Blizzard does like asses, but whatever. I didn't think about that part, okay? Engram on both bases, definitely worried about that air stack. I guess Sosij isn't really growing too much economically here, so Grass Eater doesn't have a humongous gap to close, but really it depends on how his Shroud comp does, as he has gone into sort of like a Zeth Vorv with Zorius Lake is. So, you know, armor is going to be dealt with a little bit nicer. The massive ground units is going to be dealt with a little bit nicer. We already have Witness out, though, so you do got to think about that. Expanding into the third base for Grass Eater. Going to be a 2 o'clock location for that. One Zeth over here hanging out. Watching to see if anything moves up there. Just pitches off a couple of units to go clear that location. Meanwhile, Witness spying for any cheeky movement elsewhere. Hydra's Den halfway complete. Try to spread out the tech. It's actually a Silience and not Vibrance. Interesting. Grass Eater actually pulling the trigger on an attack over here. He wants to shut down the third base before it happens, and that's successful for now. Burrows all the lake is in case there's a more committed attack from Sosij, but he doesn't really need to do anything right now about this. Sure, his units are going to die up here, but no sense in defending Protoss honor about that right now, particularly with the Witness spying all the lake is. He's got multiple Witness here. The Avaleth is all the way in the bottom, so just watching for those drops, I suppose. Nath's on guard. 11 Hydras being made. Grass Eater likely going to be going into backdoll here. We'll know if the ski back starts up. Upgraded Den. Meanwhile, tier 4 tech being leveraged, stepped into, and an Autocourt. The advanced builder of the Protoss. Kasuga used them once against Thunderslaps, and it was one of the greatest games I've ever seen. He's on Monocyte. Oh, he's actually going to just try to run in and kill this Cantavis. I don't think that's going to work out. The Ecclesia's count a little bit too high. Good hallucination proc as well. Very nice. Basically makes units take a 150% damage, so ends up being pretty nifty. Trying to move the Storm over to see if he can deal with the Lakes, but not always the greatest of moves. Man, a lot of money on both sides, particularly the minerals for Grass Eater. Now skyrocketing almost to 2,000. Not really making a whole lot of units right now. His Hydras are waypointing in a bit of a disjointed manner. He's already got a bunch. Lake is burrowing a pretty long line. That's not quite where they needed to be. More of them stepping forward. The Amaranths aren't getting a lot of shield steal procs off because they keep stutter stepping. They want to be kind of committed to the fight, glued to it, and a humongous push from the remaining units coming in from the south. A lot of static defense up here. I don't think Grass Eater can actually break that position, but he is forcing his opponent to remain on just 2 bases. Third base is active here for the Zerg. 9 more Zorius. A redonkulous amount of money. Adding more Grand Libraries to try to spin down the minerals makes a lot of sense here for Sosij. Oh, his Asilians are on attack move. I don't know what happened here, but this could be really bad. One of them's going to go down unceremoniously. The other one wounded quite a bit. Those are expensive units. You really don't want to lose them if you can afford it. If you can avoid it. I guess if you can afford it, it doesn't matter. Interestingly enough, we do not have another Avaleth moving across the map. There is one at the natural for Grass Eater. We'd love to have him blind these witnesses so that we can't have Sosij spying on the Lakes, but that's a layer to the game that isn't immediately activated. A Demiurge has arrived. Pretty good anti-melee, but Is it really going to be the be-all, end-all versus everything else that Grass Eater is fielding? I'm not entirely sure. Some tech node upgrades are on the way. Storm on the back line, but it's mostly on the Zoryus, to be fair. One of the Lakers will go down. Acantavis trades his life for it. Rillarokor death reveals the witness, so that gets popped in a pretty cheeky way. It's really just the Rillarokors, the Broodlings here, that are being potentially mind-controlled, which is not what the Demiurge is actually looking for. This is not a good composition to be playing Demiurge into, because they drain their energy every time they mind-control a unit, so when that kind of thing is happening, it's not always the best move, since Rillarokors are quite numerous. But maybe you can still take a few of them. Pretty good for like Ultra Core, stuff like that, but 14 skiths being made right now. The Elgorg is done, the Bactyl, the Skiback rather, is done, so it is just going to be for Skith. Wants to see if he can move in and start heckling some of the workers. But remember those engrams from before. They are operating nicely. One of them's even in a Crucible power field, meaning it'll shoot faster. Grass Eater trying to keep his containment going. 1,000 minerals still in the bank. Could definitely be spending some of that down, but 1,000 gas on Sosage's side is maybe harder to understand. Analogs are out. They retaliate by cloning the attack that hits them. Oh boy. The engram is going to have a field day with these skits, I'm telling you. Oh, jeez. Oh, God. And the Zerg army is being pushed back on the other side. The Asiliants and some of the stolen Zoryus even are definitely going to be invaluable there. All of a sudden, looks like only 4 skits survived the engram run-bys. Did he even blow anything up? No, I don't even think he got a single worker kill for that matter. Let's see if his Bactyls can help him clear out some of these, units in the back line. They end up just getting salvoed backwards, to be honest. Leica's Spines also dealing some splash damage back to the army whenever they hit an analog. Pretty deadly. Nice little pickup there for Sosage's composition, it feels like. But, no, they are going to get drained pretty quickly of their energy when that kind of thing happens. Every hit they take is 5 energy that they spend, so if you can hit a bunch of junk attacks at them, then they're not nearly as effective. But yeah, you saw how quickly they ended up paintbrushing the damage back to the Leikas. It's half damage on whatever they reflect back, but still pretty significant in the grand scheme of things. Up to a 3rd base, but Grass Eater up to a 4th, so still actually has a better economy. Worker count favors Sosij, but he's not mining at his 3rd base very much. Skith's now looking around to see what they can find. There's a couple artisans down there. They'll at least pick a pylon, but that's not actually that significant right now. Just more of a nuisance. Making Ultra Cores, making Zoryus. Ancestral Archives on the way for our Protoss. Adding more pylons, another engram. The Autocore just building what it can. This is actually not powered, which is really funny. So if that Ancestral Archives doesn't have the Autocore near it and doesn't have a pylon near it, it will not actually build any units, which is very funny to me. Well, the Ultra Cores are coming, and they do take a while to actually break down. It's mostly Asilians here. They're okay on the armor pen with 3 of them. Ultra Cores will not actually be deflecting any of their damage, absorbing any of it with their armor. Now, that's the front line that you need, and maybe even a little bit more than that. Actually, once that Ancestral Archives finishes, I'd love to see some Archons. He's actually realized that maybe he needs a pylon. Good wherewithal. Crucible on this side as well is not bad. Although it's maybe a little bit wasteful. First Ultra Core goes down almost immediately. The others haven't actually been able to join the fray yet. Analog 1 that remains is going to probably be brought down here. Yes, the Ecclesiasts tried to keep it going for as long as possible, but it was not to be. And the Demiurge is also withdrawing. It turns out maybe you needed a little bit more frontline, or maybe the Asilian count alone isn't enough to do damage that is necessary. A Patriarch coming first. Well, I think Archons are pretty good in this context. Obviously, Archon Amaranth is like... It's kind of a squad unit, that a composition that... The Amaranth can shield sustain through the Archon Psystorm that goes off when it dies, so that's kind of what I think about that. Sycophant's pretty good too. Pretty threatening Zerg army. He is going to run up here and take care of the 3rd base, and economically speaking, I don't really see how Sosij can continue to fight from that point onward. We're approaching 17 minutes here as Natural is still giving him some minerals for now, but it will start to run a little bit more dry. Minerals deplete in Cosmonarchy and become like depleted geysers in StarCraft 1. But it might not matter if the Zerg army can just break through here. Demiurge is doing their best to try to mind control whatever can happen, but nothing is going down. The Ultra Core's just shirking off every attack, life-stealing like nobody's business, and the Bactol's pushing in even further than that. It looks to me like Grass Eater has found a very surprising victory. I can't really imagine much else happening here. The Demiurges can actually get out. I thought for a second they were stuck inside the Sim City. It's only Patriarch here to try to shield sustain through things, but they're walking right into the front line, not even getting their attacks off. GG, Grass Eater does it all in that third game. Very compulsory win. Remember, he 6-pulled, didn't get the right kind of damage, and then he just made a thin line of Zeph so that his opponent would, you know, not walk past him, not walk through him. And it felt like Sosij could have probably microed through that. Instead, he ends up paying for his, I guess you could say, his pacifism with his life. But only on one map. We do have, of course, Macroglia coming up next. And if Grass Eater continues, maybe we can even see Frozen Sylphid. Let's see what happens. And we're back. Macroglia is our battleground here. From this point onward, and I guess technically from the last map as well. Sosij on Qualification Point. This map could be our last, or we could go to a decider. Grass Eater in the bottom left is our Cyan Zerg. Necron's favorite color. Shout out Necron one time. Happy birthday. In the top right, we got Wine Protoss once again. I wonder if Sosij wants to be one of our homie Gs who will actually play as Protoss in the Battlement stage. Because if he does, he's going to need to do some more epic, some more wonder, some more action here. And put Grass out to pasture. Which sounds like sending him home for a family reunion or something. But trust me, it's a lot more violent than that. Just so you guys know, our current lineup is looking kind of interesting. You may not know that Ayud64, second place in Acropolis 3, champion of Acropolis 2, didn't play the game in Acropolis 1. That's the only reason why he wasn't the winner. Wink. He has actually decided, instead of playing Terran as he has in the past, he's going to be playing Protoss. That's pretty interesting. The only other Protoss we have confirmed so far is Neblime. Made it through the qualifier, through the Tribunal stage. I believe that was Tribunal number 4, if I'm not mistaken. Tribunal number 2 was won by Oya, but he declined his invite, so we have an extra spot from the Gauntlet stages. I mentioned that some time ago when casting some of the earlier qualification matches. The only other players I'm aware of that are locked in that I can see so far. Newt is our sole Terran representative, actually joined by Kutyam. That's not true. Kutyam has qualified in. And then we have, for Zerg players, Hamster, assuming he sticks with Zerg. He hasn't confirmed what race he's going to be playing just yet. Krankendow declined his invite, so no Zerg from him. Zeke, pro player. Cannoli, Art of Turtle, Jack Yelansky. And Grass Eater could be our 6th Zerg as a result. Our most populous race by far. Arbuz is going to be playing as both Protoss and Zerg. He's a selective random. Shopkeeper dogs are Sosij. Hit him up as random all. So we have one confirmed Sosij player, which is pretty cool. And perhaps we will have some more by the end of Gauntlet Stage B. I don't believe we had any participants for Gauntlet Stage A that were Sosij. Godweek could not participate, but he did sign up for B, so we'll see about that. Grass Eater going for a pretty fast Shroud with a bunch of Zeths that he wants to move across the map here. And it's a Gate double Rogue Gallery with some Kabbalist flavor. But the Zeth count is pretty high, and they can just surround and tear these Zealots limb from limb, laying into them. The Kabbalist is not going to join the fight, and I actually respect this move a lot from Sosij. He knows he can just pull the workers, but, oh, his Ecclesiast was allowed to be surrounded. This could be a problem. Going after the Warden now, the workers need to drill. But they couldn't quite displace every Zeth, and down the Warden will go. Now, still, even though there's going to be some casualties here... Oh, the Kabbalist actually came back. That's awful for the tempo of Sosij. He felt like he needed it, but then at the end of the day, he didn't. reinforcement units were going to be more than enough, and the Cabalists did not get away with murder in the other side of it, because there's no combat units here that could have stepped to him. In fact, he could have one-shot the Quas, walked away, and one-shot the other one. Instead, the jig is up, and the Obelith is already coming. A lot more Quas as well, so that is going to do a whole lot of nothing. That tempo that Sosij was going to have from that Cabalist would have maybe helped equalize the situation, but as of right now, Grass Eater up a little bit economically, and yeah, okay. I think that was like muscle memory or something, and then he was like, "Oh wait, yeah, there's a Cabalist. I can't do that." So yeah, maybe a little bit rough. Still forces the Cabalist back. Maybe he wants to go for the drop a little bit later, but Sosij is already on the defensive, and so it was either like I have Quas near an Oveleth, I must drop them at muscle memory, or it was just like a fat finger moment. Lake is burrowing on the ramp. More coming, one being made. Azorius as well. Man, the larva count tends to be pretty high for Grass Eater. You got to be able to spend this kind of stuff regularly. It is the only way. Banking it deliberately is occasionally something that shows up. Trying to catch back up into it with a faster embassy, using it to make the workers, the advanced workers, rather than transports or detection or anything like that. Also where the autocore comes from, in case you weren't aware. I don't think the Cabalist actually saw whether or not the hatch was there, but you can start to guess based on the unit positioning. Zerg would be out on the map if they didn't have an expansion to defend. Keeping the Cabalist alive is good, so hats off to him there. Zeth's on a walkabout. Gilded Wall was Sosij's map pick. That means that we're back on Grass Eaters for Macroglia. His plan on Saberhand didn't quite work out. We didn't end up getting a very long game out of that one. Barguest's coming for Sosij. I wonder what he wants to actually do with these guys. Two Zeths getting popped. Envoy was made. Now that some artisans are here to turn some things over. 5 Vagrant drop. I've never seen that before. What's the drop defense going to be looking like here for Grass Eater? As Agrolith is out to start making some deep defensive structures, but that'll be some time. Now, Vagrants don't deal a crazy amount of DPS. The way that the unit works, though, is that once they hit a... they take fatal damage, they become a Shade, and that Shade attacks twice as fast and moves twice as fast, but has timed life. I just heard what sounded like a building cancel, but I don't see what it was. Might have been the ridge, actually, yeah. Ridge cap. So a couple of workers will likely go down here. No, actually, none have gone down yet. Lakers are going to come up here and burrow. You can't just scoop them all back up. But yeah, there's the Shade that we were talking about. Now he's going to move up to the high ground. There is a Circuit, but you can't just force down, target down the workers. Instead, he is trying to kill the Circuit, which is kind of a weird choice. I mean, the Quas can guard the natural while the Lakers take care of business everywhere else. Shade timed out inside the transport by the looks of it. And the Envoy is in need of evacuation. Larvos number 3. Hydrith Den. Likely Larvos number 4. Yeah, Grass Eater has a ton of money. So I suppose he's been thrown off his ability to spend that money by the drop from Sosij. That's like a real desperate drop, I feel like. And he went for triple embassy, so he is going to be pumping out nothing but artisans to try to catch up economically, but you spend more money on artisans than you do on scribes. So when you see that this worker count is 31 to 37, you say, well, I guess that's not that far ahead for the Zerg. You remember that the Protoss spent more money to get there. So it is actually a little bit more dire than it might look. As the Vagrants return inside the Envoy, sans one homie. A lot of Lakers were made here in this Game 4. No opportunity to really police the artisans with Nathracores just yet, but might not be too significant. 2 Vagrants and a Cantor. That's a nice anti-worker drop squad. Again, no expansion over here, or no defenses in that expansion. Multiple Agroleths were made, which is really interesting. I don't think I've ever seen somebody make so many of them. He's got Why does he have 3? What is happening? 3 Agroleth builds. The Oveleth got shot down over here by some of the standing defense. Zeth borrowed at the 3rd base. Grass is thinking about moving out. Static defense is only now going to start coming alive at the natural, and it is going to be too late to defend versus this drop. Keep the Cantor selected here. Already a worker lead secured for Sosij off the back of this, but... Oh, that was a pretty bold move. I actually really dig that move. And over the ramp, is, or over the cliff rather, is not bad either. But dropping right on top of the worker stack to pop a few more. It's good. That's the kind of micro that you are going to need. And you are going to see Argosy on the way. We don't always get to see Tier 3 Protoss air. Versus Zerg, I think players do enjoy the Empyrean. A nice splash ship. The Lakes are burrowed in a ridiculous ring around the hatch, which is really funny to me. Spraith is over here to try to force the Cantor away. Do we have any defenses over here? We do, kind of. Yeah, he has to just abandon it, it looks like. Oh, it might have been a mistake to go for that move, but he does get 3 more kills at the end, so... Putting his opponent on the back foot economically, but 6 Skithra cores are coming. I love that the Envoy is still technically hanging out there. Oh, it'll escape. Mostly on its own accord, too. Crucible to empower all of the production up here. The only thing that's missing is the Rogue Gallery and Gateway at the bottom. Zeths are pushed away by this roguish composition. Has he noticed that the artisans are in great number? I guess that's what the skiths might be for. But he's been making skiths every game anyway. He did not take his Lakes with him. He probably needs to think about doing so. That's 11 Lakes. That represents a significant portion of the resources spent on his military. Bactylisks on the middle of the map here being made by Grass Eater. If we get more than like 2 Empyreans, I'm probably going to start leaning towards Sosij's military. Oh, he clears the Envoy with the skits. Okay, well that's something. Pretty scary ground army. The Bactylisk count is good. Witness ends up getting shoon away, but not straight up killed. We do not have an Ulgorg anywhere in sight. Another Larvosk likely over here, unless this is going to end up being a Spraith. But, yeah. Zerg army is quite large. Lake is not with it. Bactyls that just finished, not with it. Now they're on the way. Single Zorius has entered into an Ovolith, which is not something that you hear often. Okay, we got the 2 Empyreans I was talking about. We don't have any more coming just yet. A third one gets queued up. Crucible really helping out to make that Argosy pump out units faster. Zerg is biding his time, adding those extra bases. Some Zeths over here have actually pulled the army out of position. And the Acantors could just get engaged on here. Remember, they don't have a great amount of armor. So Bactyls can and will do some damage to them. Nice engagement there. The Lake is... Oh, man, so many of them got blown up over there, it looks like. Well, still, the ground army is struggling versus this. And to a degree, you don't really care too much about the Empyrean count if you don't have any other threats on the ground. It seems like maybe they were too busy trying to deal with things like the Zorius. They can shrug off Bactylisk attacks with 4 armor. Engram here for the defense. We got a Charlatan on the rally, and that's it. And Sosij just concedes right then and there. Can't handle it. Grass Eater will finish him off on Macroglia. Pretty unceremonious game at the end there, and Grass Eater is going to force us to a decider. If it goes the way of him in the end, a reverse sweep, that is a lot for Sosij to think about on his way to filling out the form of Gauntlet Stage B. But I don't know, man. These games have been weird. Well, what's one more? Game 5 coming up. All right. We have our final match between Sosij and Grass Eater. It's Frozen Sylphid time, and it will not be a 6-pool. 3-spawn map. You know, you could roll the dice, but that's not what Grass Eater is going to do. He is our red Zerg in the 4 o'clock position, bottom right. Sosij is at 12 o'clock here. Wine Protoss. I do, I think about Protoss. I think about wine. I think about balanced wine. I think about things, you know? Sometimes I think about things. Not saying Sosij balance wines. I mean, he does, but that's not what I was saying. I was actually just thinking about Protoss as a race in general. Anyway, I am excited about what's coming next. I feel like the number of players that could conceivably qualify to the next stage of Acropolis are really coming to a head. We have a small number of potential candidates that are left here that I can tell you guys about from signing out as far as signups go for the Gauntlet Stage B. So the loser of this match, of course, I've already mentioned that at the start of this series, that they both signed up for it. So factually speaking, they will still be participating and likely, I think, are going to qualify in. This is, of course, a Larva skin to pool, in case you guys were lost in the sauce, and it is going to be a 2-gate Legionnaire build with Warden halfway complete. Very similar to Game 1, actually. But, yeah, so one of these two will be making it at a Gauntlet Stage B almost assuredly. It would be a real big upset otherwise. But then we have a couple of interesting challengers. So, Han Mono, StarCraft 2 South Korean Terran Pro. I think it's very likely he qualifies. Godwheat, Sosij, feels like he ought to qualify as well. Maybe even through the upper bracket, it must be said. And then, you know, one of these two players, and then we have 2 more slots to fill. And at that point, I'm actually kind of scratching my head. Is it going to be, you know, Biddy B, who signed up as Zerg? Is it going to be Hursty from Australia, who's actually a reasonable player, but just doesn't get a lot of games due to his time zone? Is it going to be Saint Aquinas, who has been playing for a little bit on and off again, and just came back in time for tourney season, and said that Sosij is OP, and he's going to demonstrate it by beating everyone. Then he proceeded to sign up as selective random Zerg and Sosij, so that's a little weird. Surely you would just be Sosij, but he already signed up for it, so can't take it back now. Yeah, that last spot could be a real head-scratcher there. I guess the last 2 spots could be real surprises. There's also George, Romanian Zerg, Blade Hollow, Russian Protoss, so those are the outside chance guys that are less likely to make it through, but still it would be a really cool moment for them to have some pretty epic achievement in that respect. Now, zoning back into this game, however, because one of these 2 players has to go to that Gauntlet Stage B, and the other of them has to go to the Battlement Stage without having to sign up for that. It is going to be Sosij going for his Ardent Authority double embassy build, really valuing artisans in this series in a way that I actually haven't seen him value before. Ooh, and he pops a Droleth. That's a little bit of a something there. The forcibly burrowing some Droleths as well. Not really what Grass Eater wanted to do there, but he was just kind of maybe making some sleepy mistakes. We're talking Game 5 here. And I don't think the Legionnaire actually spotted the Shroud being made. That's a bit of an interesting development here. Ardent Authority will finish and immediately go into Positrons. Yeah, I guess if you think about it, there wasn't a game where Sosij went Positron and lost, I'm pretty sure. I don't think Game 3 had Positrons. So, it's kind of interesting. Gilded Wall was like more experimental, I guess. Sosij was thinking, well, I'm up 2-0. I can do a couple of interesting moves. Maybe try some other comps or something, but ended up sitting on his laurels, resting on his laurels a little bit too much. And it's a lot of larva and a lot of money. Grass Eater. Plucking his Zeth around in the other base. That's why. He's busy. Don't add him, okay? He's busy. That reminds me of Blood Eagle from Amon Amarth, I believe is the band that made that song. I used to listen to them a lot more back in the day. And it's, you know, it's nothing particularly earth-shattering, but it's, you know, big death metal vocals and then Blood Eagle, or what's being said as, like, part of the chorus. And that's what I want somebody to do. Grass Eater, you know? And that's what that would be. Comment below your favorite metal song to spoof for Cosmic Monarchy player names. Yeah, there you go. That'll get some comments. That'll increase my algorithm. Fucking AI-generated calls to action bullshit. Quads patrolling around here for the Envoy. That is indeed coming. Legionnaire, 2 Positrons. Spraith here to help ground the units out of the transport. And, well, I guess it's hugging the right side of the map, so not so many quads are actually going to attack it on the way in, but still, it could end up being pretty good. You got to watch out for the worker count here, though. The Positrons can be pretty deadly. Envoy actually sitting on the outside. He's trying to unload on the other side, but it's blocked. Nice map making, actually, to do that, because otherwise that would be a pretty big exploit. But he's still going to end up losing a lot of workers. A lot of workers, I tell you. Yeah, that's every worker. GG. No, not quite GG, but still pretty damning. Positrons are expensive units, but not... This was still very cost efficient. He lost every part of it. He even killed a couple of quads on the way out. But it was like 17 workers or something dead, and that's all he has left is 17. So, not a great defense there at the end of the day. And I love that he made the Spraith and patrolled the quads. He did all those things correctly, but he just didn't react to the minimap quite in time. I wonder if he's having trouble reading the minimap color, because you can do Shift-Tab in-game and change your opponent's race to red, of course. Your opponent's color to red. Change your opponent's race to red, and then you play Jack Yelansky, hit Shift-Tab, and immediately you win the game. He is not red, so he is not. So he does not exist. I guess you don't immediately win the game. It's like he disappears, he gets Thanos, and then after that, you got nothing. You know, you have to defeat an empty seat on the map. You know. At best, he started mining his minerals with his workers. All right. It is a Zeth Zorius attack with some Lakis. This could be pretty deadly, actually. Not a whole lot of room to work with here. The Cantor can't quite fire the blind projectiles. Do we have any detection? It looks like the answer is no. Qua's feasting on those artisans in the natural, and the lake is holding everything else back, but there's no more vision to give them. One Zorius remains pretty low, all things considered. Good dodge there at the end for the Zorius. Artisans fended off to the other side. Quas are going to make sure they're not mining from the top right. There are some mining from this geyser out here in the third, which is really funny. Taking a third base is Grass Eater, looking for 6 o'clock by the looks of things. 15 Droleth as well. A little bit risky. If his army gets wiped, he could be in some danger, but he ends up recalling the Lakis, feeling like he did some good damage here. I don't think his quads are going to be particularly investigatory towards this third base, but that is something you got to watch out for when you're fighting against an artisan player. 15 Droleth. All popping up there. Nice. A little bit undersaturated in the natural. Just needs like 3 more mineral workers. And transfer a few over there by the looks of things. Also capping the gas in his... capping the ridge, rather, in his main and natural. Double Clarion for a moment here from Sosij. Yeah, I actually really like that. He doesn't have any other shield restore right now, but he adds in a couple of rotations of Ecclesiast here with that and tries to go for a move out. That could really... shrug off the attack from the Lakis. Witness is out now. Multiple witnesses out. He's going to spot what's going on in this position. 5 pairs of Naths is a pretty big committal towards that. I'd love to see finally a Calcure Lake if he's going to go for something like that, because you go for Calculisks, you can fight at the extremity of the Positron's weapon range. You know, you're talking about a 2-range advantage over them. And you can also help deal with things like the Cantors. To an extent, things like Clarions. So Clarions distribute shield damage to all linked units, but first one got sniped immediately. I'm actually not sure where the other one was. Back at the rally point, okay. They do stack the effect, so it's more like extending the overlay, the radius of the effect, I guess. If you link a Clarion to a Clarion, then it works. It considers itself in that way. Nice pops on these Lakes. We have been utterly pranked, and you know what it was? A faulty smoke alarm. Don't worry, guys. Prono goes real hot, and so he just casts, and he casts, and he casts, and he sets off all the smoke alarms in the house. But we back, boys. We back. Clarion on the front line, not a great choice for it. Definitely needs to dial back. Strength in numbers for those things. Unfortunately, the two were not together, so he never really got a unified front. But I do like that Grass Eater keeps trying to pick it apart. That's not a bad move. Now, we got more Zealot Ecclesias coming out. Pretty solid gateway count at 5 already. Got multiple Ardent Authorities, 4 embassies. Sosij really not building another Nexus this series, apparently. 11 Hydras. We don't have a lot of Lakis left over. Those pops are really good from the Acantor. That was what I was saying before the smoke alarm went off. This monarchy is heat, boys. A little bit of a disjointed move from the army for Sosij. Trying to slow down the Acantors with the Quas. If that's what that was doing, I think Grass was just kind of doing that happenstance, but if that's what he did, that's really, really good, actually. Keeping those Acantors entertained. I love the idea of a counterattack here. He's waypointing a couple of Quas around, but I don't think they're actually going to be able to go anywhere of significance. He does snipe the Clarion, but all of the Positrons are able to just shellac the Hydras then. There's almost nothing left for him. Trio of Zorius. Grass has a hash, must have been the observer. The Sept man. Hey, don't type about that. Type about your APM. He comes on in with the claws. He needs to actually surround that positron. It could just kill everything by itself. You can't handle that one. A lot of air units here. Not going for the main attack because the positron count is still pretty good. I guess with 4, you could deal with that with skips, but can you actually connect onto it? It might not matter. It's a mad dash for the battlement stage. The air units are sundering the artisan count, but I don't think that much matters when you have to deal with all of these ground units. It feels like those air stacks had to actually be used for the right purpose. All the gnats have gone down, and the positron, you can see he's trying to split his skits, but instead he's not actually attacking with them. Still, he will kill the positron. Can he get on top of the defense is the question. Lake is burrowing. The Ecclesiast revealing. The Acantor is destroying. More Lake is behind that, but not a whole lot else in production. It's just Hydras, and I think Grass Eater has been routed as he desperately tried to do some kind of counter damage. He clears the Ecclesiast, but the positrons come out, and no GG is called as Grass Eater has been defeated. Sosij made the right calls on the attack, and Grass, well, my friend, you could not quite make it happen. I hope to see you qualify at a Gauntlet Stage B, homie, because I just feel like there's been so many times Grass Eater has almost done it, gotten to the last chance match, kind of like this, and been defeated. It's gutting over and over again, but I'm sure this time is his time to get into the battlement stage. So that's what I'm hoping for. You can join us for Gauntlet Stage B coverage, which will begin tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then for that video, and congrats to Sosij for being our third confirmed Protoss after Ayud's switch from Terran. GG.